Did you think that retro gaming couldn't go any further? That we had reached the limits of what we were capable of in terms of fidelity and functionality? Well, let me introduce you, on behalf of the entire Recalbox team, to the true retro gaming revolution for your cathode ray tube screens, namely the brand new Recalbox RGB DUAL 2. After launching the Recalbox RGB DUAL, which allowed you to connect a PI3 or a PI4 to your CRT screens with impeccable RGB quality, and the Recalbox RGB JAMA, which offered arcade enthusiasts full access to the power and features of Recalbox. On the arcade machines. Originally JAMA, Recalbox, the retro gaming solution created by retro gamers for retro gamers, returns today. In 2025 to propel emulation and retro gaming into a new era with the brand new Recalbox RGB DUAL 2, setting new standards in terms of fidelity, versatility, and accessibility. Specifically designed and optimized for the latest Raspberry Pi 5, the Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 is simply the ultimate solution for playing on a CRT screen, with pixel-perfect rendering and features never seen before. You will indeed, of course, find all the features and strengths that made the Recalbox RGB DUAL 1 a success, but with many features particularly requested and awaited by the community, starting with native support for the latest Raspberry Pi 5, with full audio management, as well as 4 high-quality video outputs. The traditional Scart and VGA outputs are now accompanied by an RCA composite output and a jack output, audio, and composite video in 3.5mm, but also support for composite signals directly on the Scart, RCA, or jack, allowing you to simply connect all screens whether they have a Scart socket or not. Additionally, the ability to choose between RGB or composite signals by default or even on a case-by-case basis for launching a game to simply offer you the same video signal as the original consoles. We also consider the highly requested support for 4:3 and 16:9 televisions. Ninth on the list are the Scart and RCA sockets compatible with the widescreen hack-to-play Dreamcast, Super Nintendo, and Mega Drive games in 16:9. Compatible without any image distortion, but also allowing you to enjoy all your content, multimedia, YouTube, Twitch, Crunchyroll, and many others directly on your CRT televisions, thanks to the Kodi media player, which we integrate by default. But that's not all. You asked for it. Here it is. The much-anticipated native support for the Guncon 2 for fans of light gun games. You will also be able to enjoy the management of dynamic resolutions for certain games, PlayStation 1 and Saturn for example, which changed resolution during gameplay. We are also considering new features such as support for progressive modes, but also interlaced for RGB signals which will allow you to enjoy the original resolutions of systems in 480i on Raspberry Pi 5. Yes, you heard correctly, the 480i is coming exclusively to the Raspberry Pi 5, and this is now possible thanks to this new Recalbox RGB DUAL 2. If you have a PC monitor with 31 kHz, there will also be new display modes in 240p at 120Hz, to allow for more precision, and especially some crazy skylines. You will also benefit from a brand new amplified video signal, which will allow you to connect both Scart and VGA simultaneously. On the audio side, you won't be left out with a brand new ultra-high quality I2S DAC audio module, allowing you to handle signals up to 388 kHz in 32 bits. For an unparalleled sound experience, allowing you to output sound both via Scart or the socket, 3.5mm, jack. And finally, let's not forget the automatic switch on the HDMI port when a cable is directly connected to it. And without making a fuss, that's quite a few new features. It's simple. The Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 absolutely meets all the requests and expectations you've expressed to us since the release of the first model. But that's not all. To accompany your Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 and your Raspberry Pi 5, we are pleased to introduce our brand new modular and scalable case, the Recal'Tower. The Recal'Tower is an adaptable case, designed to fit all configurations. Only have a Pi 5? No problem. The first level of the Recal'Tower will allow you to insert your Pi 5 and even add an NVMe SSD in the 2030 or 2242 format. Decided to upgrade to the Recalbox RGB DUAL? No problem either. Just like the Mega Drive and the 32X, you simply need to add the second level on top, allowing you to plug in and protect your Recalbox RGB DUAL too. Moreover, this design is completely scalable in the future, should we release new components. For those who might not have enough information yet and would like even more technical details, feel free to pause this video to discover the full technical specifications of this brand new module. Recalbox RGB DUAL 2. Finally, let's wrap up with a quick FAQ to try and answer the questions that are likely to come up most frequently. The question that's likely to come up the most is when this crowdfunding campaign period will take place. Be aware that the Kickstarter is scheduled to be online throughout April 2025. Then, of course, you'll be asking us questions about the visibility we have on the projected production and delivery schedule. Well, here too, we've listened to your various feedback, and we will try to be as responsive as possible to offer you ultra-fast delivery. To achieve this, we will simply launch the first production batch as soon as the first Kickstarter goal is reached, even before the end of the funding period. So, in other words, first come, first served, and thanks to these a little week gained before the end of the Kickstarter, we hope to deliver the first units before the summer holidays of 2025. So, naturally, among the lot, there are people who will ask us the question of when the Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 will be available on our online store. Well, naturally, the RGB DUAL 2 will be available on our website once all the Kickstarter orders have been fulfilled, and once the new batch is received. We hope to aim for a period of the start of the school year, or perhaps the last quarter of 2025. So, that's really why we advise you to consider actively participating in the Kickstarter, in order to be delivered 1 to 2 quarters before availability in the store. This is a question that will come up frequently. Will the Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 be compatible with the Raspberry Pi 3 or Pi 4? Well, no. The RGB DUAL 2 has been specifically designed to fully take advantage of the power and numerous technical advancements of the latest Raspberry Pi 5 and simply offer you the retro gaming experience. Ultimate, without any compromise, without any slowdown, to make the most of Recalbox on a CRT screen. Now, this is a question that will make all Raspberry Pi 5 and first-generation RGB DUAL owners smile. Is the new Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 now capable of outputting the sound from the Pi 5 on the Scart socket? So, yes, of course, and without any accessories, you will be able to enjoy sound of very good quality, as the sound section has been completely revised on this new Recalbox RGB DUAL 2. And as a new feature, the Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 also has a mini jack socket directly on it to output the sound on your EFI system, for example. So, is the Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 completely plug and play, like the first generation RGB DUAL and the RGB JAMA? Well, absolutely, and we want to emphasize this once again. It's the promise of each of the products and software solutions we implement with Recalbox to be 100% compatible with the software system without any action required on your part. You plug it in and it works, as always. Now, this one is a bit special, but it might interest some of you. Can you have a video signal on multiple outputs at the same time? Well, yes, absolutely. With the Recalbox RGB DUAL 2, you have the option to output the same video signal on the Scart socket and the VGA socket simultaneously. Be aware, the signal will then be identical in terms of frequency and resolution between these two outputs. In a similar vein, this was a question often asked about the first generation of the RGB DUAL. Can you connect the HDMI socket and one of the available analog outputs simultaneously and choose the output signal? Well, yes. So, first of all, to begin with, deep switches are present on the Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 to set your default analog output. And on the HDMI, an option is available in the Recalbox OS menu to prioritize the signal on the HDMI socket when it is connected. Please note, I remind you once again, a restart is necessary in both cases. Will you be able to use the Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 without a case? Well, yes, of course, without any problem, but your Recalbox will be much less protected and secure. So, be cautious if you do not choose the case we recommend. However, be aware that spacers will be provided with each order of the RGB DUAL 2, allowing you to connect it directly and in a completely secure manner to the Raspberry Pi 5, and keep them together without the risk of breaking the pins, connectors, or your Raspberry Pi 5 or your Recalbox RGB DUAL 2. And finally, in the same style, can you buy the case Recal'Tower for Raspberry Pi 5 on its own without the Recalbox RGB DUAL? Well, yes, of course, the Recal'Tower for Raspberry Pi 5 will also be available on Kickstarter and then on the Recalbox website by the end of the year. A little bit of all that, as we explained to you, is that this case is intended to be upgradable over time, so you can certainly get it for the Pi 5. Now, upgrade it with the Recalbox RGB DUAL 2 later, and then perhaps with other modules, but we will talk to you about that soon. That's it for this presentation video of the brand new Recalbox RGB DUAL 2. Once again, I would like to thank you on behalf of Digital Numberjack and the entire Recalbox development team, because there are now thousands of you around the world who have trusted us with the RGB DUAL first generation and the Recalbox RGB JAMA, and your feedback has been simply ecstatic. We simply hope that this new project will meet each of your expectations, and much more besides. I remind you that at the moment you are watching this video, the Kickstarter is already live, so don't delay if you want to be among the first to enjoy this ultimate retro gaming experience on a CRT screen. Thank you very much for your loyalty, your trust, and we are already eager to read each of your comments to know what you think of this new project. Happy gaming to all, and perhaps see you very soon for new projects. Bye.